everyone. This is Jeff Kikel with Entrepreneurial Essentials here at T-Werx once again. And today I'm going to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Darla Sees of Sees HR Consulting. And we're going to talk a little bit about the wonderful world of HR and the challenges we all face in that world. So, Darla, you didn't start out as an HR consultant. You actually started out working in the HR world. How did you get to this place with the consulting firm that you have now?
Okay. Well, I've actually worked for large and small businesses, and what I did was help them out in all areas, generalist, and realized that the small businesses need help just as much as the large businesses. Oftentimes you don't have the budget to hire a HR department or even an HR person, that you just need a little bit of help, and so that's what I kind of followed my heart and decided I was going to help as many business owners as I can. Perfect.
Well, and you come for as much or as little as they need, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So are there some that you find that have a little bit more, more of a need where you're maybe on site a couple days a week, or do you mostly work remotely with them? Or?
Most of the time I work remotely. I do go in with any project that's done. I'll go in and brief with the business owners and let them know what's been done, or kind of educate them. I do a lot of trainings with supervisors just on the employment laws, what they need to know about it to make them successful.
Gotcha.
And then others I just really only do remotely and only see them remotely.
Okay, perfect. So what are some of the services that you provide to an HR, or in the HR solutions?
Probably one of the most important services I provide is the HR assessment.
Okay.
I'll go in and I'll ask the owners a bunch of questions from an HR standpoint, and let them, then I'll summarize it for them.
Okay.
And I basically let them know that they're in that assessment. Some of them are best practices for HR. Others are actually that you have to do that. It's not really required. It's not really up to you as an option. And so I kind of give the business owners what their picture is, and let them know how they can improve themselves a little bit.
So are there a lot of folks like you out there, or is this somewhat of a newer thing, almost like a HR hired gun to come
Well,
in?
I think there's quite a few, and there's quite a few in our area that they're great HR folks as well, and they can offer the same services too.
Sure.
So there's quite a few. I think primarily HR is so used to being in the organization that it's a newer trend, but there are quite a few good organizations out there.
So what makes you? Why would I hire you over someone else?
I think a lot of it, when you're going for an HR, you have to look at personality.
Okay.
You have to make sure you can tell by the certifications and education that someone has the knowledge that they need to have. But you also need to make sure that you are able to get along with that person, that you are able to respect that person with their opinion, and just kind of like an employee in an interview, you got to make sure that they're the right fit for you.
Sure.
Might be the right fit for some and not the right fit for others.
Exactly. Well, and I would say it's just like hiring a full-time HR person, but I don't need you full-time.
Absolutely.
I really have to make you part of the organization.
Absolutely, and it goes both ways. There are oftentimes that there might be a company that if they don't value their employees and they don't respect things that they should be doing, I would prefer to find one that do, and use my time wisely instead of trying to beat something upside somebody's head.
Well, and that's, and you're not forced to work with them at that point.
Absolutely.
Which I think is the best part.
That's the great thing of being a consultant.
You can choose.
I
yes.
can choose.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about, some of the challenges that these are entrepreneurs that we're talking about here, and we're all wandering through the wonderful world of entrepreneurship. So, where do you see some big challenges when you're working with smaller businesses like ours, and some areas where you can quick hits to not do and get in trouble?
I think it really begins with, I always say, what you don't know, you don't know.
Sure.
I think what happens is often too many individuals do not know what is expected from them from the employment side of it.
Okay.
It starts exactly from the interview. There are so many questions that are not appropriate to ask folks, and if you don't know that list, if you don't know what where it came from and why you can't ask the question, then you end up asking questions that you don't need to.
Can you give us some examples of those?
Some examples could be maybe what religion are you from, or do you have a car? Do you have a house? Do you have a criminal background? history, just stuff that you would think that could be, oftentimes is a common conversation. I guess it's not too common to ask somebody about if they have a car, but sometimes things that you are thinking that you're trying to get to know them personally, when actually as an employer asking that, those are inappropriate.
Wow. Well, but I mean, you think of it, you think that that's not that common of a question, but if you have somebody that you need reliable, somebody that comes to work, I mean, asking that, I wouldn't think that, I would make that mistake. I could think if I knew I needed somebody that had to be here at a specific time, and if they don't have a car, and we don't have very good public transportation here in Austin,
Absolutely.
That's actually not so far out of, so it's good to know those type of things.
And there's ways to ask that without asking that.
Sure.
And then the reason why a lot of the questions could be perceived as not appropriate is because a jury can find that as desperate impact, and the desperate impact on minorities. And so you can ask, the job hours are from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Do you see any reason why you would not be able to come to work during those times? It doesn't matter if one of their friends takes them to work and has a car.
Sure.
It's really, just because
doesn't
they don't have
matter,
a car
as long as
doesn't mean
they're
that they
here.
can't get here. Exactly. So there are questions like that you can ask.
Okay.
And especially with the criminal background check, that's not appropriate. There is a time in the interview process where it is appropriate, but especially with Austin, not every Austin business owner or knows that in the application. You can't even ask that on the application anymore. So
and that's a rule for us here in Austin. So those of you that are watching this outside of our area, that's something that's changed just this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that you can't even ask that in any way, shape, or form during the interview at all.
Not until you actually start giving an offer out. Yes, and it's called the ban the box movement. But you see other cities going towards that as well too. So there's just things that you have to know. You have to know the federal law, you have to know the state law, and you have to know the city law.
Okay.
So it just kind of keeps on getting bigger.
Just for more fun. So you've now got us scared about asking questions. So what are some other areas that are common, let's say, mistakes for entrepreneurs, or
I think
things we don't know?
One of the things that you hear me speak about a lot is handbooks.
Yes.
I think that in any relationship, it's always nice to have a handbook and to know what is expected of you.
Okay.
I always compare that to, a employer and employee relationship is a lot like a marriage, that everybody goes into a marriage thinking it's going to last and just, all full force. But not every marriage lasts. Same thing with an employer and employee relationship. Not all of them are always going to be wonderful.
Sure.
And I think that the handbook is a protection. If I have to work with an employment attorney for a situation, that is the very first thing they're going to ask me. How does the employee know that they're not supposed to do that, and where have they signed that they have done that? So if you don't have a process in place or an employee handbook or something like that, it's like, oh, well, I don't know. I always say, you have to tell them they have to show up to work on time. I know that's
you
really.
think this would be logical, but not necessarily.
But everybody's common sense level is different.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
It's not as common as you might think.
Yeah, exactly. And usually, a lot of the times, I always say you have to make the policies to your lowest common denominator in your employee pool. So you have to put things in there to where, yes, we expect you to show up to work, and if you don't show up to work, then we're gonna expect this from you, or we expect you to call in and let us know you're sick. You can't just sleep through the day and just no call, no show. Just little stuff like that is important to put in the handbook and make sure that's your compliance piece.
Sure.
Not only that, but it also creates a culture that you want for your organization. I think that oftentimes working with managers for years, like I have, that if you're in the heat of a decision, your emotions are involved. So if Juju has not come to work so many times, you could be upset. It could be a client that was impacted. It could be you that was impacted because you have to do their job. There's a lot of emotions. When I think that if you make that decision beforehand, before Juju even shows up to work, you have a better chance of making a more sound
proper decision at that point. So fantastic. I know we were having a conversation just this morning about the employment chart that you're supposed to put up. That's an easy one that you can get massively in trouble for.
Yeah, absolutely, there's fines. If you ever look at those posters, it's different laws, because it's usually all in one. They usually have federal and state together all in one. But each of those different laws have different fines.
Okay.
So if different governmental agencies decide to come in and just to see how you're doing, you would be fined for that area. So some of the fines could be anywhere from like $525 up to thousands.
Wow.
It really just depends.
Yeah, for something what's the typical poster cost me?
I ordered some this morning. It was $22.50.
Okay, so I spend $22.50 or spend $1,000 if they catch me. So.
Exactly. And the other good thing to know too about those posters is it's highly recommended for them to be viewable from someone that is coming in and interviewing.
Okay.
So we can't just throw them away in the closet. We have to actually post them, and any candidates that come. So put it in your break room.
Okay.
It's a great place to put it. Usually you show the candidates around, or you either interview in the break room, because that's oftentimes where people have the room to, and just make sure that it's there.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, well, and it's the area where people congregate a lot of times.
They congregate and they know their stuff. And then the other thing too is fill it out. There's two different sections in there, like what's your workers' comp company. If you don't have workers' comp, then you could just X that out. You don't have to have workers' comp in the state of Texas, but there's even like how frequently do you pay. You have to check that. Check it and fill it out. It's really,
you can't just throw it up on the wall.
It's really less than 30 seconds to figure that out. Yeah. So.
How often do you have to replace those?
It depends on how often they change them.
Okay.
That is just something you have to keep
On
up
top
to date
of.
on. Yes.
So we need a U is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. Or in every single spam email you get, there's a lot of updates.
Sure.
I would say probably approximately once a year something changes on it, but there might be time to where it goes a year and a half and nothing changes on it. So it's not worth your buying just to buy. Know the most current ones that are in
Makes
place.
sense. Okay. Anything else you could think of that are common mistakes that you see when you're coming into a place?
I think sometimes just not knowing. I get a lot of, can I not pay somebody because they haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing, or things, Texas Payday Act, paying people whenever you terminate someone, how quickly you have to pay them, how frequently you have to pay them is one thing. Employee files are usually not where they need to be. You usually have to have a different. If you have everything in one place for an employee, I'll tell you, then it's not correct. You have to have different levels of security basically in your filing system.
Okay. All right. Well, it's just add even more complexity. Typically we would talk about what's new and upcoming in your business, but I think, one of the things I wanted to talk to you today about, and this is why we wanted to do this at this time, there's some massive changes coming down the pike here in December, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with employees and, yes.
Yeah, the new wage law, absolutely. You have to, if someone who is salaried makes less than $47,476, then they are no longer, they have to go hourly. Either you have to bring them up to that price, or you put them down to an hourly rate and have them clock in and clock out.
Okay.
But that's not the only piece of it. You also have to do a salary duty test to make sure that their duties that they're actually doing, if they are a salary employee, are appropriate. If the duties that they're doing, you have to make sure that they actually have the duties that are salary level.
Okay.
People.
So
It's
even
not just money.
even if they're making more than 47?
Even if they're making more than 47.
Okay,
It's not just about the money, it's about their duties.
About what their duties are. Okay. So what are some of your recommendations for employers at this point? Because that's going to be a big change for a lot of businesses.
It is, and it's happening December the 1st. So I would say, first of all, determine if you have anybody that's impacted. The next thing you do is you get to write job descriptions, find out what their jobs really are, and then do the test. But make sure you go through the process of doing it all, because it's not only in your benefit, it's in the employee's benefit as well too. And there's no reason to have repercussions if you don't have to have repercussions.
Is there some guidelines or places people can go when you're talking about what are the duties and where they fall?
Yes, it's on the DOL website.
Okay. So you have to go in there and dig around.
You can go in there and dig around, and there's many different sites to where you can start getting some job descriptions, and just Google the job description that you're looking for, and then always cater it to your company. There might be something different that you have your person in this position do than another company does.
Got it. Makes sense. Is there anything else that's coming up here towards the end of the year that we need to really be thinking about when it comes to
For the end of the year, I don't see anything
Okay.
else. As far as I know, we have not received any new challenges yet.
Yet. I'm sure it's an election year too, so.
That also changed the law that's in December the 1st coming out too. There have been states that have sued the Department of Labor, so we might find out on the very last day that we don't have to implement that.
Sure.
But it's probably pretty highly that it is going to go
Sure,
through. So.
sure. And I know you do a lot of work in the benefit side of the house too, so that's where she and I work together with my other business. And, I think there's a lot of changes coming if you offer retirement plans and things like that. There's some things and we'll do an episode specifically on that as we get into next year, but there's a lot of things coming down to where more is being placed on you, or more responsibility is being placed on you as a fiduciary now too.
Yes.
So.
Yes. You can't just you can't fake it till you make it anymore.
No.
You have to know
No,
it.
they're going to come after you. Well, great. Let's hit the Fast Five now.
Okay, Fast Five.
So tell us about an entrepreneurial challenge that you've had in your business.
With that, what I would think it would be is oftentimes I get jobs and I decide that it's going to take me a little bit of time, and instead of getting it done, I will sometimes spread it out because I'm fearful that I'm not going to get another job.
No.
So you try to make the money spread a little bit more, the work spread a little bit more, which reality is that it would be smart just to get it done and over with,
Sure.
and then you have a week off if you don't have a job.
Absolutely.
But that's not happening. So what's happened to me is the reverse effect, is that I've taken my time on some things, and then all of a sudden something comes in, and then all of a sudden something comes in, and then all of a sudden now I'm working with 6 different companies now, and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, wait a minute. This was supposed to be a part-time job.
Yes, it was supposed to be part-time, and 4 out of 6 want handbooks. Oh, wow, guess what I'm going to be doing for a while now. So a lot of it is just making sure that when you do it like you would do it, and
Sure.
have that faith that it's going to come in later
Yeah,
on.
well, and I mean, I would look at it as, okay, that frees you up for more time, either to take time off or to go and develop and build more business. at that
Exactly.
point, so.
You can definitely figure out how to build new business.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so next question. You wake up in the morning, you find out your business is completely gone. You have $500, you have a laptop computer, you have food and shelter taken care of. What would you do first?
Probably take a little vacation to the beach real quick.
Okay, we talked about that. Yes.
But I think that honestly, I'm where I have always wanted to be.
Okay.
I truly enjoy helping people. I truly enjoy employment law, and like I've told you before, I thought about being an attorney at one point in time. So I think that the compliance issues is where I enjoy it, and I think I would just continue to build business and go to find more businesses that could help me.
That's awesome. Yeah, you just get back up and start all over again.
Try it again, yes.
Can you give us a good book that you would recommend for an entrepreneur?
My favorite book that I read for entrepreneurial is The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster from
Okay.
Darren Hardy.
All right.
It just walks through the process of how entrepreneurs are a little bit different minded than other individuals, and it will walk you through ups and downs. It's the analogy of a roller coaster. You go up and down. Sometimes you go upside down and just twirl, and just being on the ride and the fun of it. So.
Excellent.
And it has some key points in it too, of course, that I'm going to love, is how to hire the right people and not to hire people that you can't really fire. So some people have too many of their best friends working with them, all that kind of stuff, family members, all that stuff, and it just makes you think of things in a different way.
Sure, excellent. Is there a tool that you would recommend, maybe like a Trello or a Evernote or something like that you would recommend and you use on a daily basis?
I think the one that I use the most is just pretty much for any business, not only entrepreneurs, is OneNote. OneNote. You can do that in so many different areas. You can have it on your laptop and have that organized, but then you can also look up things on your phone, because you have that, you're in the middle of something and you need to jot that down. You can write it down on the same to-do list. You don't have to have sticky notes everywhere, all that stuff. So
yeah, that's a
OneNote.
big fan of mine too, since I have a Surface tab. They're integrated together with the pen, so it's outstanding. So I'm a big fan of it too. So how do we get in contact with you if somebody's interested to talk to you out there or has some questions for you? How would we get in contact?
There's a couple ways. You can go to my website, which is www.seeshr
Okay.
Consulting.com, so it's SEES, HRconsulting.com. That will give you all the contact information to get a hold of me. You can just give me a call as well too, or shoot me an email, and I usually respond pretty quickly to whatever kind of need someone needs.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Great information. Certainly if you guys have questions, I will tell you she is one of the best HR people I know. And one of the most knowledgeable, so please feel free to reach out to her because she'll help you out a lot. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We will see you guys next week for another episode of Entrepreneurial Essentials. So have a good day.
Thank you.